Hello, hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me some time to discuss. Actually, my name is Peter. I'm working. I'm at the FI Bay Area to this year. So then, actually, right now I am on the product development phase, and what I'm doing right now is just to develop a cognitive application for kids aged 3 to 11. So it's
Okay.
gonna be the same as the age of the learning yard, right?
Yes.
So yeah, actually, right now I'm working on the product development and also the product specifications. But as I can tell you that right now it is gonna be this in the game. If you can imagine, it is a game for the kids, but it also provide the parents the report, the progress report to the parents to get know that the child uh, how long that they use the applications and how well they are
Okay.
learning from the applications. Yeah.
Got it. So, what exactly is it that you're building? You said it's a cognitive learning app?
Yeah. Actually, right now our product definition it is gonna be I would say pretty tricky at the first. We plan to do the standard learning curriculums, but actually after we do a market research, we saw it is gonna be a lot in the market right now. Even though some of them can provide a report for the parents, but most of them they are offline applications, so the parents can buy for their kids, and then after that they give to the kids and don't know what happened. So
Hmm.
then when we saw it, we try to think about if we introduce the report, it's gonna be good. But at the end, it is gonna be too hard to penetrate to a saturate market. But for the cognitive training, I think it is gonna be pretty new. Even right now, it's just only the Lumosity. The Lumosity is for adults. It's designed for adults. But for the kids, actually, there is no leader in the market right now. So then when I plan to do is I plan to introduce the cognitive training model with the standard learning curriculum. But for the learning curriculum, we are focusing on the STEM side, the science, technology, math, yeah,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. So then actually that is what we plan to do. So then what we are doing right now it is we coming with two matrix. One side it is for cognitive training. We are finding some advisors in the neuroscientist space to design what is the game mechanics that can measure the child cognitive learning while we introduce some like knowledge like colors, fruits, animals, or something like that. Very fundamental to the very early kids. So then, actually, what they get is they will get from both the knowledge and also the cognitive training and measurements. Yeah, that is going to be our product definition right now.
Okay, so when you say cognitive training, what exactly are you defining as that? Is
Uh,
it quiz based? Are you just trying to get factual knowledge? Or are you trying to do brain training, kind of teasers and things
Actually
like that?
it is going to be a brain training. It is like
Okay.
right now what the first game that we are progressing to launch. It is just simple hide and seek. It is like you show the picture, then you hide it, and you let the kids find it.
Hmm.
So in the cognitive area, it is we call the working memory. So that
Hmm.
actually we can specify that how kids good for the short memory and how much they pay attention to the apps, because actually we can say that kids always guessing, always playing, and always something like that. But if there's someone that always answer correctly all the time, so then it means that their working memory is good, and also they pay a lot of attention with the game.
Okay.
That is what we measure, instead of measure that okay they know they how to what is the colors, what is the fruit, something like that. So yeah, we mix all together into one chunk of applications.
Okay, so are you predominantly focusing on working memory as your cognitive improvement metric, or are there other things that you want to do
Uh,
too?
Actually, we have the memory, we have the speed, we have the visual recognitions, and we also have the logic and decision make lo- logic decisions. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And you're planning to use game mechanics for all of these?
Yes.
Okay. So, in terms of game mechanics, one of the things that we found when we were building out our games is there's a big and very important difference between games that are simple quiz kind of style and games that are more intuitive that don't really feel like you're in school or learning when you're actually playing them. So, what kinds of game styles are you guys focusing on? So, you've mentioned hide and seek. Are there other play styles that you're focusing on?
Uh, Actually, the most of the gameplay that we plan to do, it is gonna be the arcade game type, not the learning game type.
Okay,
Actually, yeah.
got it. Are there any examples you have of games like that that you like right now?
It is gonna be like the Invader.
Okay.
So right now it's gonna be the Invader game that have the objects flying. So then, actually, the kids need to do some actions to hit those.
Mhm.
Maybe just click on that. It is pretty simple. Or if they are growing, they may need to do a couple of steps just to finish and kill the monster. Just that.
Okay.
The gameplay is gonna be complicated by the other instructions to complete one actions, just to move to the next steps.
Okay, got it. So where are you guys in terms of actual product development? Are you just in the idea phase now, or have you actually started developing anything, designing?
Actually, I'm on the product idea is gonna be done already, but right
Mhm.
now we are in the phase of making an MVP.
Okay.
So right now, instead of putting our more resource into the mobile applications, so
Mhm.
then actually right now I'm spending a couple days to do some HTML5 game
Okay.
that I can let the child to play.
Mhm.
Actually, I think I can send you the URL. Yep.
So just so you know, you don't even have to do software MVPs if you want to test with kids.
Yes.
Kids are pretty flexible. We actually did paper tests with a couple of different ideas, some of which came out, some of which did not. But if you have an idea that can be done with paper, you don't even have to spend the time coding. If you just want to see if kids enjoy it or not, you can just make game pieces out of pieces of paper or cardboard and then sit down and play with them. As long as they look decent, you can generally gauge whether the kids will hold their attention or if they're understanding the game mechanics or not. So it can sometimes save you time and be more valuable than trying to go through the actual development phase.
Mm-hmm.
If you've already got code in place, though, then keep doing that and see how far it goes.
No, actually, because right now, what we are the market that we are approaching, it is not the kids. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
it is for the parents. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, the parents, the benefit that they will get from the platform, it is the reports. It is the report that we gonna send them weekly,
Uh-huh.
in a weekly basis. Yeah. So then actually at the end it is gonna be pretty tricky if we going just for the paper based game. We can
Mm-hmm.
use the paper based game to test the game mechanics with the kids. It is gonna be just that is gonna be a very good suggestion. But for the parents, it is gonna be right now. I need to do some market tests for the parents as well. That's why I need to do some minor MVP.
Okay. Um, in general, marketing to parents is pretty difficult. So that was actually one of the problems that we ran into. Getting parents to adopt new software that's unproven or unrecommended is pretty challenging. So unless you've got credentialed experts or teachers to recommend certain things to the parents, then it's generally difficult to get them to try it, even if you do have reporting infrastructure in place or something somewhat unique.
And so, what did you do for your applications in terms of the market penetrations?
Yeah, so it came into a couple different places. So one, we actually went to parent friends of ours and held little mini workshops with them to show them how the games worked and gave away a bunch of free copies of the games to other parents that we knew so that they could kind of spread the word. We also partnered with a number of bloggers who blog about education technology and educational games as a method of reaching the target audience. And that worked pretty well. Anytime there was a new blog post, you could basically see the stats on the downloads jump a fair amount. We also went the teacher route. So we talked to a number of teachers and got them at their PTA meetings to discuss that there were new educational game opportunities, including ours, available to the parents as kind of a recommendation engine, if you will, to get parents to sign up for it. And then we also did some AdWords as well on topics related to games, education technology, math skills, arithmetic, learning, and things like that. So it was a multi-stepped approach. Even so, it was still pretty difficult and pretty slow to ramp up to a point where people were actually downloading at a decent rate.
Whoa, wow, okay. Hmm. Yeah. So and so after you do the promote, so actually, how often do you update the game for your game for your the learning objects?
Um, Let me think. So after release, we actually only updated twice. Once was a general bug fix release. The second had a little bit of additional content and some minor changes that were suggested by some people who had downloaded and played it over the last month or so.
Okay. Wow.
It's a little bit different than what you're trying to do, though. Sounds like you are trying to build out more of a platform approach, whereas we were pretty much focused on individual game releases.
Okay.
And that's kind of the model that we've taken and see it goes okay, but it's much more segmented. So we start with game release one, and then we'll patch that and make sure that it plays well, and it basically lives on its own in the market. Then another game will tackle a slightly different aspect of learning or education.
Mm-hmm.
So one might be fractions, one might be general addition subtraction. Another one we're working on now is more conceptual with division, which is a little bit trickier
Mm-hmm.
to teach, and actually developing another one right now that's more on integer operations, so adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing positive and negative numbers, which a lot of kids have trouble with remembering order of operations and how things turn into positives and negatives over the time. So we're basically trying to do individual units that, if you sum them all up together, would turn into a program where you could give these to your kids and teach them a decent amount of curriculum. But it's not really a platform where you would say, okay, this is an integrated one-stop shop that has miniature modules. So your approach seems like it would be better as a platform because you're focusing more on the reporting aspect of it. So you'd want to see how kids are performing over time in different modules. So, working memory might be one module, speed might be another one, logic and rational thinking, spatial recognition, I'm sure might be another one, things like that. So I see yours as more of a platform play where the core product is a single release, and then you're going to iteratively put out additional modules that train kids of different ages on the core skills.
Yes. Actually, what we plan right now, it is correct. Uh, we're gonna come into two approach. One is to introduce a new game mechanics
Mm-hmm.
for one age group and for
Yep.
one group of knowledge. Then we can adapt into another group of knowledge with the
Mm-hmm.
same game mechanics. So then actually it is gonna be in the platform purpose. What we introduce is gonna be new module instead of the new new game in
Okay.
in the app store. Yeah,
Hmm.
so there is gonna be just one game, but in we put some like different modules. So then
Okay.
actually if we go like that, so right now what it is confusing me a lot, it is that should we go with one game with the modules, or should we go with several games that actually at the end it talks to the same reporting platform, so then actually at the end parents can get reports anyway,
Mhm.
but we can have like multiple applications, so that actually it is going to be attract to the market easier or something like that. Do you
Right.
have any recommendation
I
for
would
that?
definitely go with multiple games. The reason is even the best parents are only going to be able to get their kids to play for a certain amount of time before they think it's boring.
Hmm.
You're much better off if kids have multiple options that they can choose from when it's time to sit down and learn with their parents, or if their parents just want to hand them the iPad, rather than just having a single game that they have to play over and over again with slight variations. If you give them just one game, I guarantee you kids will play it and then they'll beat it once, twice, maybe three times, and then they'll be done with it. So you'll essentially ramp up, they'll get super interested, they'll play through it. They're going to want something else, but it won't be there, and then they're going to move on to another game out there, which there are many. You're much better off if you have different options. So one day kids play hide and seek. The next day they're going to play an invaders sim. The next day they're going to play something like Tetris or maybe spatial reasoning. Another day they're going to play some kind of logic puzzle game. So they have different options around. That'll hold their interest a lot better, and I think it'll make the parents happier too, since they don't have to deal with as much repetitive stuff. Um, One of the things, for example, that we found originally we didn't have a mute button in game for the music, and our number one request starting out was to add a mute button because the kids would keep playing the levels over and over and over again until they were tired of them and got bored, and it would drive the parents crazy. And after
Okay.
they were done with that, they would move on and basically be done with that level forever. They didn't want to come back to it. So I would definitely say more options is better, both for the kids and for the parents in terms of keeping their attention, and also for just making different kids are going to learn better from different games, especially if you're crossing genders. So, for whatever reason, we were never able to pin it down entirely. Um, Girls and boys prefer different kinds of games. Sometimes it's due to social upbringing, sometimes it's tied to just general interests. So, boys might really like playing the hide and seek game, girls might really like playing Tetris or something. If you don't provide different options, then you might lose one group that just learns slightly differently or has slightly different interests than the single game that you picked.
Okay, got it.
I'd also, if possible, give options that can be slightly gender specific, whether that's different colors or whether you have an avatar that can go along with the kids throughout their progress through the games that they can kind of customize, and that can be their persona in the games. That helps a lot with crossing the gender and ethnic boundaries and letting the kids feel like they're associating with a game that's more tailored to them rather than trying to force them into this kind of one size and one style fits all method.
Okay.
Another thing I would make sure you're aware of. So most families have multiple kids, and they're not going to want to purchase multiple versions of your software to handle all of their kids. So whatever you're building, try and make sure that it can handle tracking of two different players, and that it's dead simple for kids to log in and switch between the players. Because a mom might buy this for her family of two or three kids, and then she's going to want to be able to have all of them play and track them all separately so that she can see which
Yeah.
ones are progressing well and which ones are not.
That is what we plan to do. So I like to ask one thing. So right now, I our game is a freemium model. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, the parents can download the game for free. They
Yep.
can give to the kid for free, but it is limited into the learning track. Actually,
Okay.
for the cognitive skills, they will get all. They can train all. They can get the full reports. But for the knowledge track, they get
Mm-hmm.
just one track per month. That is for the free model.
So what are you defining as tracks? I'm not
Track, it
quite
is gonna be
understanding.
like the knowledge track. It is right now, because our company we call the My Rocket Kit, it is our bigger plan. It is that the kids playing to build a rocket. So
Mm-hmm.
then, if you want to go to the space, so what is the occupation that you need to have? It is a scientist. You need to have the doctor. You need to have a pilot, and you need to have like engineers. So then
Mm-hmm.
actually each track we will teach them the learning objective, the learning knowledge, and also the instructions to do is different. So then
Okay,
actually if
'cause
you go
it's
to the doctor track, it is one
right.
thing. If you go to engineering track, it is going to be very much different. But
Okay,
actually the game mechanics are going to be the same, but the learning space is going to be different.
okay,
So
I like that.
yeah, so then right now I limited to just one track per month
Mm-hmm.
and with one child. If they want to go to the premium, so right now we can have two package. One is to access everything for just one child, and the
Mm-hmm.
other pack it is the family pack. So then actually you can have more than one child to
Okay.
access. Yeah, that is gonna be the subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I would test multiple models for sure. It's hard to predict what's going to work best for your game. What
Mm-hmm.
we found was the biggest request is for content add ons to allow kids to play more levels or to get to a sandbox environment where they can play as much as they want. That has to do with the way our games are constructed, though, because they're more typical game style. Um, and they progress through levels rather than being kind of a generic puzzle framework or something like that. Kids would beat the levels, and then the parents would be wanting to pay for additional levels beyond that. That may or may not be what works for you. If their focus is definitely going to be on selling the analytics that come out of it for the parents, then it might make sense to do like a base level of reporting that they get for free, and then extend the reporting beyond that. I'd be careful about limiting kids to a particular track for a particular payment, though. I think in general, you'd want to let them at least try the other tracks,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's a very limited amount. Like you get this one full track for free, but you only get 5 minutes of the other tracks that you can try, or the first module of the other tracks that you can try. And then once you try that, you can pay for the additional content. Generally, when you go for add-on content like that, you want to give them a taste up front so they know what they're going to be paying for. Because if you just give them, okay, here's the engineer track, and by the way, we also have doctor track and captain track and navigator track and all this other stuff. That's great, but I don't necessarily know what those other tracks are unless you let me try them and see that they're fundamentally different and worth paying for. So I don't think that's necessarily the way you should go. What I would do is build a couple of different models into your MVPs and see what parents think about each one. You kind of have to be careful because if you ask people how much they would pay for or what they would pay for, it tends not to be realistically what they're in the real world going to pay for.
Okay.
Um, it's better if you don't tell them that they would have to pay for it and then see how they react once they get to that. So you can try with one person, and then when they find that they'd have to pay for one additional level or another track, just see how they respond, and then you can have the conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you can't just ask them up front. You can put a poll out there if you want to, or do ask my target market or something like that. But your responses would probably not be nearly as good as if you just built it a few different ways and then A/B tested to see which one gave you more revenue.
Okay, got it. And did you do the MVP for your application?
Yes.
Okay. So you use the paper base, or you use
So
just
we started paper based with 2 kids, and then we moved to we actually built it in Cocos 2D. The first one, actually, the first two were Cocos 2D. I've moved on to Corona since then, since it's a little bit faster to develop for, and I'm playing around with Unity now as well. I'm not as big of a fan of it; it's pretty heavy. Um, but yeah, first one was paper. Then we basically built out a super simple prototype with reasonably good looking graphics just to test the actual gameplay on the iPad. One of the things we found is motor skills vary a lot between age groups of kids. So very young kids actually have some difficulty using an iPad effectively. So you have to kind of give larger touch areas and slow things down a little bit so that they're actually able to use their fingers to move things around and manipulate objects on the screen. Older kids obviously have no problems with it, and they're looking for faster paced, more immersive graphics and things like that. So, figuring that out up front was interesting. Also, things like kids like to rest their hands or elbows or something like that on the bottom part of iPads. So you have to be careful where your play hit areas are on the screens, that you don't pick up the wrong hits or inadvertent hits. So that was kind of the stuff that we were testing for in the first MVP. And then we iterated on that and spent a lot of time on graphics and animations and making things shiny and sparkly and generally rewarding, so that you could unlock additional plants, flowers, grow your garden, so you actually have a little garden and get rewards for it. So it kind of grew from paper to MVP using it was all static graphics, and then actually into animated, nicer graphics with more final gameplay.
Yeah, so it's been that during the MVP you use the static graphics, right?
Correct.
Okay. I sent you a message. Okay. Here's the URL. Actually, this one is gonna be have some kind of bugs. I haven't patched it, but this is gonna be the MVP game
Okay.
that I'm gonna test. So actually, you can. Actually, the purpose is to capture that rocket, the white one. How many seconds do you have right now? I'm not very sure. Let me check.
Okay, it is loading right now. Okay, I see.
But the score and other thing is not correct right now. It is just in the debugging mode, I would say. But it is the first
Okay,
program.
so what are the blue ones?
The blue one is a decoy. Actually, if the kids click on it, it is mean that they not pay attention to our instructions.
Okay. Is there more levels than this?
Actually, it is right now the level. It is gonna be faster and faster and more rockets and more decoy. Just that it is just very simple.
Okay.
This is for the attention and speed testing for the kids.
Okay.
Actually, it is a pretty simple that can implement in like 2 days. So then actually I would like to do some data collections from that game, and I will gonna send some reports for the MVP. What do you think? Or I should do a much better graphics for the kids.
No. So the biggest thing we found is that the kids actually don't care overly much about having the great graphics up front. That's a detail that you can add in later without any major performance hit. I would instead focus on either adding more levels or more variations so that you can get more rich data to report to the parents. Because basically, I'm pretty sure you'd only be able to report a single line chart, which would be like session and then maybe attention and number of ships hit or something like that.
No. Yeah.
Which I don't think would be a very compelling offering to parents. They'd just be like, well, yeah,
actually, right now, what we are trying to do is we gather the data. Maybe one kid we need like 20 or 30 data sets for one player.
Okay.
And then we feed into a model. Then the model will show just very simple number. It is the how much for the speed score for this kid, how much for the attentions, and when they compare to the other kids in the same age group, so what is the percentage when we do the percentile? What is the percentile that this kid it's in this area? It's how good it is.
Right. So if I were a parent, the one thing I would want to know is how can I help my kid improve? Not so much where is my kid in the class, but okay, so this is the base level that my kid is at. Now, how do I get him to or her to improve over time to get to the top of the class? So I would try and think of a way where you could start with this as kind of your baseline, and you say to your parents, okay, here's where your kid is at within the group, and then your real sell is based on that level, we recommend that you play these 3 games, or that we adjust the speed of things, or that we focus on differentiating between the decoys and the regular ships, or whatever aspect of that skill would improve their performance over time, and then show them that using your software, the kids are improving over time. Just having like single session, here's where my kid is in the class, isn't overly valuable as a parent to know. Yeah, great. My kid's middle of the pack. How do I get my kid to the top of the pack? That's really where your selling point is going to be. So how can I take what I know about the kid and then turn that into a learning plan to get them to improve this stuff? So you might want to make sure that you're collecting data on which aspects are driving that speed function. So I'm sure you probably have this already, but sure, maybe it's left to right movement that they're really good at, but right to left movement they're not for some reason. Or maybe they're really good at tapping the white ships, but as soon as the decoys come out, they lose track of where the white ships are. So then you need to train them to differentiate between the two. Or maybe they're really good up to a certain speed, but then as soon as it passes kind of this threshold speed, they just fall apart and lose concentration. Or maybe they just get bored. Whatever it is. If you can find ways to track that and then break it down and then adjust the game to address those problems over time, that would be a really compelling thing, because you could say, okay, well, left to right was good, but right to left was bad. So let's just focus on right to left for a little bit and then come back and then we'll play the whole thing again. Or finding the decoys was a problem. So let's just focus on picking out the decoys as quickly as possible. So maybe you'd have like 10 white ships on the screen, but 50 decoys, then you have to pick the one. Or maybe, in a decoy space, you have the decoys that look closer to the normal ships, so then you're just training to quickly differentiate between the two based on some visual awareness tasks. Things like that, I think, would be a compelling MVP, where you're showing not just, okay, we know where your kid is, but we know where your kid is failing a little bit, and we also know how to improve that. And then you can show, okay, so from this, we're branching out into 3 tasks, and then once we've improved those 3 tasks, we're going to come back and play this again. And then as soon as we've done that, within the space of less than an hour, we've improved your kid's performance on cognitive tasks by 10%. Mm-hmm. Then that's an MVP, because that shows, you've got statistics that are useful to the parents as well as useful to the kids to actually learn stuff.
Okay, wow. It's amazing.
That'd be the direction I would take.
Okay, got it.
And I think you could do that with a lot of games, right? So obviously it works with this one on a couple of different aspects. If you were to do logic puzzles, there's many, many different kinds of logic puzzles. Some of them are number-based. Some of them are based on trigonometry or, spatial awareness or...
But actually for the puzzle, it is... Right now, what I have the problem is I cannot think about how to make the puzzle interact with the kids and make it interesting.
Okay.
It is going to be, because the puzzle is, it is for maybe a grower, mm-hmm. not a younger kid. What do you think?
So it depends on how you define the puzzle. So if you look at Grow Your Garden that we built, it's actually a puzzle game, mm-hmm. Because you have, if you think about the core aspects of a puzzle, you've got some number of objects you can manipulate and some goal that you have to accomplish using those things that you can manipulate. So in the case of the Grow Your Garden levels, we've got a main flower pot that needs some amount of water. And then you have other flower pots and a watering can that you can manipulate in order to get the main flower pot to the amount of water that it needs. So it is really a puzzle game, but it's also interactive because you're forced to try different things and think about it in order to get your flower pot to the right level. It doesn't necessarily look like a normal puzzle game, but it is from the core, what is a puzzle aspect of it. So
Okay.
there's many, many different ways you can approach puzzles as a type of game. It doesn't have to be a boring, put the piece in the hole or match three or something like that. It can be much more abstract and still accomplish what you're trying to do. So I'm not too sure what type of puzzle you need to accomplish your cognitive training. But if you send me whatever you're trying to do, I can help you brainstorm some ideas for that. But I guarantee you there's something you could do that's both interactive and accomplishes your goal. You're gonna have to think about it kind of around what you're probably starting with.
Okay.
We started with typical quiz style games and found they were horrendously boring, and wanted to do more puzzle oriented games because that's what kids are far more interested in. So that's kind of the evolution of that. So we actually started with water. There were a number of games that used water as a core mechanic, and it was really interesting because water's a liquid. You can fill buckets with it. You can push it around. You can turn it on and off. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. So that kind of turned into, okay, well, water has volumes, and volumes can be segmented into numeric amounts, integer amounts, and then you can make puzzles based on those integer amounts. So, it doesn't even use numbers, technically. The entire thing is done conceptually. So I guarantee you there's something. If you send me some info, I'll be happy to help you think.
Okay, thank you very much. And for, because you're not right now, the education applications, right? So when we do the,
Here,
like,
let me send you something too, by the way.
okay.
So this is kind of a good example. So there's a professor who also teaches younger kids math using somewhat interesting methods. So he actually teaches graph theory to 7-year-olds using basic colors, coloring, and connecting dots with lines. And it's both
Wow.
a puzzle and it's something that's normally taught to high school and college kids, but he makes it so simple and so interactive with the kids that they're able to do it with crayons and a piece of paper and bring it home. And these are 7-year-olds, so they're not exactly way outside of your age range. He has a couple of other interesting posts on here as well of how he teaches more advanced concepts, but it might spawn some ideas from you on ways to teach kids that aren't necessarily traditional math, but still fit within the kind of the lessons that you're trying to go for.
Okay, got it. That is very interesting.
Yep. So just in general, colors and shapes work really well with younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably something there in terms of puzzles that you could do that it would be fairly interesting and also fairly simple to accomplish programmatically.
Okay, got it. But so when we do the marketing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so actually, because right now we are like half game, half education. So then actually when we approach to the market, so we approach like a educational applications, or we approach like a video games for
Don't
education.
approach as a video game. If
Okay.
you approach as a video game, you've lost your main selling point with parents.
Okay.
Kids would prefer video games, but there are so many video games out there, you are never going to compete with Angry Birds or the 1,000 other highly rated games on the App Store in terms of selling a video game. It's much better if you pitch it as educational software with game mechanics that is fun to play and interesting and educational at the same time. So I definitely keep it on this is educational software that happens to not suck kind of pitch. And I think your number one pitch should definitely be guided improvement, if you can build that into your platform. So don't just pitch it as, here's something that is a way for your kids to test their cognitive abilities. Testing is great, but it's not a major selling point. You want to focus on improvement. So here's a way for your kids to improve cognitive skills, which are the core of learning over time.
Okay, got it. Whoa, yeah.
right? So I would definitely say during your marketing phase, I don't know if you guys have gotten to that in your class or not. You should definitely focus on tying your cognitive training to more formal kinds of training and learning. So parents right now are all freaking out over the Common Core set of curriculum standards in the US at least, which is all test based and follows a very strict curriculum from grade to grade to grade. And it's basically when your kid is in grade one, they should know these things in math and these things in reading and these things in grammar. When they're in grade five, they should know these things and these things and these things. So you'd probably be well served to tie your cognitive learning aspect to cognitive learning enables your kids to get better at basic math skills or get better at reading quickly or get better at general intelligence, which will enable them to perform well in school. Because a lot of, it's kind of sad, but most parents aren't too involved in their kids' general learning habits and health. They're much more interested in, did my kid get the grades that they should be getting? And whether or not they're willing to spend the time with their kids, who knows? A lot of times they're just looking for teachers or applications to make their kids better in school. If you can appeal to that and provide something that will tangentially get them better at school and grades and general learning over time, that's a big selling point. If you just say, yes, it's going to improve your cognition, well, you're going to get maybe like the top 10% of parents who appreciate that and want it to happen, but the whole larger market that really is just focused on academic success will kind of ignore it and go for the more standard test-based Pearsons and all of that other stuff. Yeah. So just be careful when you're developing your marketing and advertising that you keep it focused on real-world improvement that kids can apply to school over time and not just on kind of abstract cognitive learning.
Okay. And do you implement like function for like the social sharing or something that is going to be for virality or something like that?
What do you mean?
Like Facebook sharing, something like that. Like
Um,
whatever that is gonna be linked to the
yeah,
viral
so
marketing.
we entertained that idea and there was a lot of discussion both inside our company and with other advisors over whether or not that was a good idea. In the end, we decided it was not. Within the app, it's generally a bad idea because you get into major privacy issues and content issues if the kids are posting on Facebook. It was a third row. We didn't want to touch that. In terms of parents sharing their kids' scores out to Facebook, we didn't really ever implement strong tracking of how kids were doing in the apps. That might be something which I would definitely keep it outside the app or away from what the kids themselves can post, and instead make it something that's available to the parents, that they can post their kids' progress on the parents' Facebook, not on the kids' Facebook. In general, you don't want to touch anything where kids are doing any kind of social sharing. It's dangerous and legally tricky in a lot of cases and probably not worth it, especially if the parents are the focus of your marketing materials and the ones who are paying for it. It'd be better with, my kid just passed X level in your game, or my kid is top 10% in his age bracket in logic speed, or whatever it is like that. Mm-hmm. That might be something to entertain. I don't know how much parents would care about that beyond getting the reports, but I don't think it'd be overly difficult to build in the Facebook API, assuming you have some kind of portal. I don't know if you guys have plans for something in addition to the game itself, like
Actually, we can have two channels. One channel is for the game. The game itself is actually for the kids basis, but actually we hidden some parents functions in there, so it's gonna be a bit hard to get into the parent functions. So then you need to get the parents to get into the parent function so you can see some kind of summary report in there. But if you want to see like details and you want to do something like a suggestion from like third parties or something like that, we're gonna have another portal to do that. Yeah.
The other thing, so I don't know if it's possible, but The best way to add social interaction would be in your email reports or whatever reports you're providing to the parents. So if you're giving them, say, a weekly digest or something like that,
Yep.
if in that digest you can give them a way to take a social action, that's by far the best time to do it because that's when their attention is immediately on it and they're going to be most proud and most likely to share. As soon as they move away from that email, it's out of sight, out of mind. They're much less likely to come back and do it. I can't remember if Facebook allows URLs to trigger posting or if you can only do likes, but it's worth looking into.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna be send URL to the server and let the server post it. Yeah.
Right, right. But that would definitely be the time to do it. So I'm super proud of my kid because I just got this report and they're top of their age group or top of the 500 kids who are using this app. Bam, I'm going to post it right now because I want to boast about my kid. As soon as I close the email, go run errands, come back, it's probably not going to happen.
Okay, got it.
Yep. The other thing you should consider, since you are taking the analytics track and kind of tracking kids' performance, would be figure out if there are any long-term ways in which you could integrate with classroom performance tracking to see, because that's where your data actually becomes valuable. If you can pair your cognitive learning data with academic performance data, and then see if there are any tie-ins between that. That's going to be like a long-term goal, but that would be a good eventuality is to figure out here's the at-home learning stuff that's going on, and the kids are excelling at these core areas. How are they doing in the classroom? How are their grades in math for second grade? How are their grades in physics? Are we actually able to demonstrate a performance improvement using that? Or can we help teachers focus on specific problem areas that we know from these apps that are helping them do cognitive learning? So that's, after you've got an established audience and some brand clout and other stuff going on, that'd be a good goal, but it's something to keep in mind for long term.
Yeah, wow, it's great. But yeah, to integrate even to get the like automate data is gonna be pretty hard, right?
It depends on whether or not there are APIs available, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guarantee you there are other companies who are working on tracking kids' academic performance and making that data somewhat available. They may or may not be working on APIs that would have open access, via password or token provided by the parents. You could also do the same. So if you wanted to make your data available to other providers, you could offer an API that allows parents to share their kids' data with other providers.
Is there any that kind of provider? It just exists right now, right?
I feel like they do, but I haven't kept an eye on the grade tracking software recently. I read a couple of articles a few months ago. I can't remember though. I'd have to look into it.
Yeah.
If it hasn't happened already, it probably will in the next 5 years.
Yep. If there are some vendors that provide the information like this and the parent is subscribed to that and give us like password or token or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that is the integration is going to be very possible. Yeah.
Right. So that would be kind of a partner play again, long term, trying to match up data and then use some analysis to figure out better ways to improve the learning over time using that.
Yes. And do you have it from my sharing? Actually, from my side, I share you all what I have right now. I'm not really sure whether do you have any suggestions on the features function that I should try to implement on or.
So beyond what I said, right, I think your number one focus right now should be on kind of the branching aspect and being able to track the aspects of performance. The game itself, in terms of an MVP, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's good enough that you could put it in front of kids. I would probably add some kind of intuitive instruction level ahead of time, just so that they know what they're supposed to do without you having to explain it. Because in the real world, you won't be able to explain things to the kids in person. So you probably want to test now. Do they understand what they're supposed to do? So what's the difference between a decoy and a real ship? I only get points for tapping the real ships and not for the decoys. So you might want to have like an introductory level or explanation or something that's purely visual, just to show them what they're supposed to do and not supposed to do.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Let me see if I had any other notes here. So I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but one of the things we ran into is that kids plow through levels very quickly. So it's basically impossible for you to release content faster than kids will go through it. So as you're developing your games, try and think of ways where you can add a kind of sandbox functionality to it, where kids can either create their own levels or play it over and over again in a way that doesn't get overly boring. Because they'll plow through as much as they possibly can faster than you think they will, and then you're out of content and they're not going to play your game anymore. So if there are any ways you can put in kind of like a sandbox, maybe the ships change over time, or different backgrounds, or different planets, or just any ways you can switch things up and make it so that the playing won't get boring and repetitive, is definitely better than trying to create different level-based content over and over again, because you're never going to keep up. It's a common problem with game designers. You can't create content nearly fast enough to keep your audience happy. So
Okay.
you can either crowdsource it, this is more general game stuff. You can either crowdsource it, so open up level editor tools and let the community create levels and content, or you can open up to a sandbox environment where you can play different styles without getting bored, because it's just up to you as the player what you want to do. Not necessarily important right now, but just keep in mind as you're building your games, content is tricky. In terms of games, so I would try a lot of different game styles. They're fairly quickly to iterate at the MVP level you have right now. You could probably pump out a couple different ones over the next weekend or so. Try spaceships, try cars, try bugs, try other things. Maybe this particular method with spaceship tracking doesn't work well. Maybe marbles would work better. Play with physics one time. Just see what works in terms of games, and what's going to be the most interesting to kids. Because there's a lot of different ways you can implement the exact same concept. So tracking this speed. There's tons of game styles that all track speed. Maybe spaceships are the best. Maybe they're not. Maybe meteors, for some reason, are far more popular than spaceships. You won't know until you try it. If you have a fairly large audience, more than 3 or 4 kids, it'd probably be worth just testing it out. You can even try it with your friends. I mean, adults generally, interestingly, have the same level of appeal to various things as kids do. So, like I can send a game idea to my brother, and if he plays it for more than 5 minutes, I can be pretty sure that the kids are going to play it for more than 5 minutes too.
Okay,
if he gets bored in 30 seconds, I know it's a terrible idea. And he's 32, but it still works, right? Because he's still got the same mentality about wanting games to be fun and engaging. Let me see what else. Play a lot of Flash games. So one of the things we found most helpful was looking at what other people have done and then figuring out if there's ways we can modify existing game mechanics into things that are educational but still interesting. So we played a lot of Flash games and figured out which ones were just purely entertainment fluff and kind of tossed those aside. But then there were some that were actually, somewhat, they had some kind of logic or learning aspect to them, but it wasn't the focus of the game. But if you twisted it just a little bit, it could be. So in terms of getting ideas, I mean, just go on Armor Games or Kongregate or whatever and plow through a bunch of Flash games and see if there's any that spark your interest. You probably have done that already, but it's a quick and easy way to game test without you actually having to do any development, because you can already see, okay, this is interesting. That ended up being really boring, and then you can think, okay, why was that one boring but this one was interesting? well, maybe it was, this one had a time aspect to it, but that one didn't. And then you can kind of, based on that, figure out and arrive at a conclusion of what might be a good game mechanic.
Got it. Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.
No
Actually,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah, so feel free to email me if you've got any questions or you want to share something or get my opinion. I'm happy to help.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay.
Uh, have fun in Founders Institute. Hopefully, Dave is treating you okay.
It is gonna be a couple of maybe 6 weeks from now. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Problem. Bye.